everyone, welcome to another Instaviews. I'm Saskia, the assistant editor of Voice, and happy December. It is officially only 23 sleeps until Christmas, and you're either excited or you're not. Don't know if you're feeling that Christmas spirit in the air, but stuff happens. So today I'm going to be talking to Leora Wadler, who is a theatre practitioner studying at Goldsmiths University. December is not only the month for Christmas, it's Hanukkah as well. So Leora is going to come on and talk to us about that and also give you some advice on how to get into theatre if you want to study it. So let's bring on Leora. Oh,
Yeah,
hi. How are you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. So why don't you start out by introducing yourself and telling us a bit about your creative background?
Hi, I'm Leora. So I'm currently doing a master's in applied theatre at Goldsmiths. I previously did an undergrad in drama and theatre at Aberystwyth University, and most of my past theatre experience is in directing.
Okay, cool. What made you want to study theatre?
So I was really lucky in high school. I had a wonderfully supportive drama teacher, and I really enjoyed that. So I got more and more involved with my drama department. That's when I first started directing. And I think as soon as I started, I knew that theatre was what I wanted to do. And I think I didn't really question it after that.
No, that's great. It's always good to hold on to the things that you enjoy. So how is your course going so far?
My course is going really, really good so far. I enjoy it a lot. It's sort of exactly what I want to be doing. So applied theatre is theatre that's more about process than performance, and so it's sort of working in and with communities, and it's can be a lot more politically engaged than a lot of other theatre. So that's really great. At the moment, my uni's on strike, so that there's like obviously changed what's going on, but I think is really relevant to the course, and it's been really good. In some ways, it means that we're sort of doing a lot more organizing ourselves, and sort of taking control of our own education, and also getting involved with the strikes has been really nice.
Oh, so you have been involved with the strikes as well. What kind of things have you been doing?
So actually yesterday, my course, we did a little bit of an applied theatre intervention on the pickets, because pickets, Goldsmiths pickets are wonderful actually. They've got all sorts going on, like lots of crafts and, like, yeah, there's painting, there's music, rallies, there's sort of all sorts. So what we were doing yesterday was something called conversation tables, I think originally created by a guy called Theodore Zeldin. And essentially sort of create a menu of questions. We had food as well, so people kind of come up and talk to us, and it's just sort of encouraging conversations around the strikes. And because quite often on a picket, sometimes you only speak to the people you know, so it's just a way to get people mixing. But I also think it's important that protest is enjoyable, because especially for strikes that go on, for weeks, and you're out in the cold, it can be really miserable. So to have things going on that encourages sort of a light atmosphere or conversations, really important.
And what is it that you're trying to get out of the strikes at Goldsmith? Like, what was the reason for striking in the first place?
So at the moment, Goldsmith specifically has issues. The uni is really in debt, and they're trying to fix that by selling out to banks, essentially. So they're planning all sorts of cuts that are really not beneficial. I think 52 jobs are being threatened, and various programs. So like my program isn't under threat, but I think there's a lot of history ones that are, and all sorts. And as usual, the things they come for first is always, anything with good representations. I think there's like a Black British literature program that's under threat. There's all sorts. I should be more up on the details than I was at one point, but I don't want to say anything that's not.
No, it's okay. I understand. I hope that you guys get the result that you're after.
Thank you. I hope so too.
So December is Hanukkah, and yep, and it's still going on now, isn't it? It's 8 days, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Started last Sunday, finished this Sunday.
So you created a project, like a theatre project for Hanukkah last year.
Shabbat.
Shabbat, yes. Why
Yeah.
don't you tell us a bit about that?
So my final project for my undergrad was creating a piece around Jewish identity. And so what I did was I invited an audience to join me for Shabbat. So Shabbat is every Friday. It starts at sundown. And I mean, for me, it's like very simple. We just do three prayers. So it's like candles, wine, and bread. And so I invited the audience to join me doing that. So it was just a Zoom call. And for each of the prayers, I had them, join me, turn their cameras on. And for like people who wanted to, they could, have their own candles and wine and bread. And the idea that, I was at my dining room table doing what I'd normally do, and they were joining me from there. So it was quite an intimate experience. So though obviously the audience was a lot bigger than if I'd actually had it in my living room.
So who was it that made up the audience? Was it other Jewish people, or did you get interest from like other cultures as well?
So I mean, it was primarily so it's done as an exam piece for me. So it's my lecturers and like friends from my course and so on, my family, of course, which is quite nice because I don't normally get to do Shabbat with them when I'm not at home. And I guess various friends and family, whoever we reached through our marketing online.
And you decided to do it this way because of COVID, right?
Yeah, so I we were obviously working within restrictions, and so originally, I was thinking, what can I do meaningfully from my own home? But I think it was quite a nice opportunity. I think, the way we create theatre with restrictions is very different, but I think quite often it means we try things that we wouldn't normally. And
yeah, absolutely. And even though that restrictions have lifted a little bit now, would you ever do it again?
I think about it sometimes because I would like to. I'm not sure how I'd adapt it or change it. I find that I enjoyed doing it a lot, but what I really like about theatre is being able to work collaboratively. And so it was quite an unusual experience for me just doing something almost entirely on my own, just sort of monologuing at people. But I think it was really like valuable for me to be able to explore Jewish identity. I think I'd like to be able to expand it at some point, but I'm not sure how I'd do that or how I'd adapt.
Yeah, well, you've definitely got time to think of other ways to do it. So other than just exploring like, your Jewish identity, why else was the project meaningful to you or important for you to do it in that way?
I mean, it was interesting for me. I'm quite interested in the idea of site-specific theatre. And it was interesting for me to sort of be able to explore that across multiple sites. So what I really liked about the project is that I was somewhere where I was comfortable, that had meaning to me, but that people were joining me in their own homes where they feel, much more comfortable than, say, coming into someone else's home, especially if you don't know them well. I don't do a lot of like script writing. So that was kind of a first for me, or like a first for it to be something I share with other people at any rate. So there was a lot about it that I really enjoyed. And also I tend to be, behind the stage, behind a camera, or so performing it's something that I do enjoy. But again, it's not something I will do very often.
Has it made you want to perform more? Like, do you ever think you'll step more in front of the camera from that experience?
I think with applied theatre, it's a little different because I mean, it's such a sort of a vast term that any definition I give won't be entirely encompassing. But I think what I enjoy about applied theatre is because you're not necessarily working towards some big final performance. I think in many ways it's a lot more, often applied theatre is sort of like talked about in contrast to pure theatre, but I think if anything, applied theatre is a lot more pure because everything that's going on is theatre. And like, you shouldn't really be separating yourself from your participants necessarily, you should be involved in anything. So it's not quite performing, but I do think it is, it's involved theatrically.
Yeah.
I enjoy that.
Just as important as well. So, for those who may not know, like, can you tell us a bit about Hanukkah and how you would usually celebrate it for the 8 days?
Sure. So yeah, Hanukkah is 8 days or like 8 nights really. So Jewish holidays always start at sundown. It always starts in the evening. I can show you actually if you want. I'll show you my menorah. Um, so we have a menorah. They can look like this, or quite often they have like branches.
Oh,
Is
wow,
the more
okay.
traditional one. So you basically add a candle each day, and then there's a shamus candle that goes in here.
Hmm.
That's used to light the other candles. So by day 8, there's like 9 going. Um, so yeah, I guess that's the sort of the key to celebrating. Like that's what you want to do every night.
Hmm.
Um, but also, it's a time to kind of be with family. So we exchange presents. We make food is like traditional food is latkes, which are like potato pancakes, but pretty much anything fried in oil. It's a very 8 days. Um, yeah, so I've had like done like Hanukkah with friends so far. Actually, my family are arriving tomorrow, so we'll get a few days doing like a proper family Hanukkah.
Well, that's lovely. It's always a good time to be with family. Um, so like obviously when you like living in England, December is very much Christmas dominated. You
Yeah.
don't hear about anything else. But even in November, it starts like super early. Why do you think? Because there's quite a large like Jewish community in London and in other parts. Why do you think that we don't hear about Hanukkah as much as we do Christmas?
I mean, I guess, because I think Christmas is so kind of assumed in this country. I think a lot of people think that Christmas is sort of separate to religious observance,
Hmm.
which is something that I really disagree with. I think that Christmas is fundamentally a Christian holiday, and regardless of, whether you would call yourself religious, I think it is, it is a religious thing, even if you're not saying prayers or necessarily thinking about God. And so there's quite an assumption, like quite often, I'll say to people, I'm Jewish, and they're, oh, you still celebrate Christmas though? I'm like, no, no, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, partly like, so Hanukkah's not a big holiday in like on the Jewish calendar in terms of it's sort of in importance. It's more because it's around the same time of year as Christmas. I think it's become a bigger thing,
Hmm.
and also in the winter, it's nice to have something to look forward to and a reason to kind of connect with people.
Yeah. So do you have any other like big holidays on the Jewish calendar that would kind of be the equivalent to Christmas, but for you?
I don't think there's really an equivalent. Like I guess if there's an equivalent, it is Hanukkah. Like because we do presents and we do food, and it's more
Hmm.
of a. I think because it's actually quite minor. It's much more sort of celebratory. It's less, I think, kind of focused around anything. So this story of Hanukkah is that there was a temple that was sacked, and there was a candle that should be like continuously burning, but there was only enough oil for one day, and it would take 8 to get more oil. And the candle burned for 8 days, and it's sort of a celebration of this miracle,
Hmm.
which is a nice story, but yeah, not like it's not like Passover or something, which I think is a bigger one.
Yeah. Does it bug you when people say, "Oh, but you still celebrate Christmas," and you're like, "No, not really." Like, is it annoying to have to explain that to people?
Yeah, it's something my friends tease me about because especially at this time of year where it's everywhere, I can be not anti-Christmas, but a little bit. I get a bit grumpy about it. So
I don't blame you, to be honest. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm not Jewish, but I still get grumpy about Christmas. It's just such a big hoo-ha, and yeah,
it's when it hits like November 1st and you start hearing songs like, come on, 2 months, 2 months to celebrate one day.
I know. And the moment the Halloween decorations are like gone from the store, it's just Christmas dominates everywhere, and it's oh my god. Um, but yeah, that's a different conversation. Um,
Yeah.
so, is there anything else that you're currently working on at the moment?
At the moment, there's it's a plan to be working on things more so than actually working on them. So my most recent project was a production of No Exit. It's a very philosophical play, by Jean-Paul Sartre. So I did that with some friends, and in the process, we kind of set up a theatre company, and we had a lot of fun working together. So we're hoping to do something else and to keep going. But I think we really need to figure out our next project, because I've got the masters going on, so that takes quite a lot of time.
Yes.
But I like having things to work on in the background. So actually, a friend and I want to maybe set up some workshops exploring forum theatre, which is kind of theatre created by a guy called Augusto Boal, who is one of my big inspirations. But yeah, little projects, but nothing big enough to really try to. Yeah.
I mean, you set up a theatre company with friends, so if you're keeping that going, I'm sure that will keep you busy at some point down the line as well. Yeah,
hopefully. And it's nice doing it with everyone else who's busy, and we're we'll find the time at some point in the world.
Yeah, that's always the way. Oh, we'll find the time. I mean, hopefully you do, but life does tend to get in the way, especially if you're working with loads of different people. Everyone's got stuff going on, but fingers crossed for you. So last question then for you then, Leora, is do you have any advice for those who want to study theatre at master's level or just study it at all?
I think my number one advice would be just do it. I think theatre is the kind of thing where you tell people you're studying theatre and they're like, oh, okay, this is knowing look oh, so you're going to be unemployed. And well, yeah, but who isn't at some point?
Very true.
I think, yeah, I guess my other advice would be to not just focus on studying it, because I think there's only so much that you learn through studying, especially, the theory. I mean, I'm a real nerd about it. I love theatre theory, but I also think it can only teach you so much. But if you really like theatre, the best thing is to actually throw yourself into projects. And so I even with the masters, I try to keep things going outside, because I think you get so much more experience by doing something and struggling to do it because you don't quite know what to do yet. Sorts of little practical things that you don't think about hypothetically. It's only when you have to do it that you're oh god, this venue won't email me back and I really need to book it, kind of thing. I think it's really rewarding to be able to take charge of projects and to not need to rely on someone else to validate you creatively, to just choose to do something and do it.
Yeah.
Which I know is easier said than done. But that would be my advice, to try it, and if it's not good, your next one will be better.
What other advice is there? That's very true. Learning on the job is always, you're always going to pick up things that they can't teach you in the classroom, so I think that's great advice. Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Leora, and happy Hanukkah.
You.
Welcome. And I hope you enjoyed the rest of the week and have a good time with your family as well.
Thanks very much, and thanks for having me. It's been really
no problem at all. Thanks everybody for watching, and take care. Bye.
Today's episode was made possible by Voice Magazine, an online platform for young people interested in art and culture. You can read VoiceOver at voicemag.uk and find it on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook as VoiceMagUK. If you like this podcast, please consider helping us to make more with a donation of any amount at voicemag.uk/donate. Thanks to Kev McLeod for use of the track Thief in the Night. You can find more of his work on incomputech.com.